It's 10 o'clock and welcome to Lincoln Ware Live. We're here every Sunday morning from 10 until 11, and as usual, we've got a great show lined up for you today. The first half of the show, we're going to talk to attorney Noel Morgan, talk about foreclosures and how help could be on the way for you. And the second half of the show, we're going to talk to Judge Brad Greenberg. Lots been in the news lately on bail. Why is it so high? Why is it set so high? We're going to go over the if and whats and hows and whys when it comes to setting a bond for a person convicted, well, not convicted, but accused of a crime. And we'll talk about that coming up on the second half of the show. And we'll take your calls and let you talk to the judge right here on Lincoln Ware Live. First half of the show, attorney Noel Morgan, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine. Glad to be here.
Now, every time you turn on any news channel, CNN, MSNBC, any of them, the first story you see, foreclosure, the government not bailing homeowners out like they're bailing the banks out, and that's always the case. But here in the state of Ohio, there's help for some people who are in foreclosure or who may go into foreclosure. And you want to tell us a little bit about what help may be available?
Yeah. First, Ohio has been one of the leaders in the country in foreclosure, not in doing anything about foreclosures. Yeah. But we have consistently had the highest foreclosure rate in the country. And finally, last fall, in Columbus, the governor's office, the attorney general, the chief justice, they all began working on programs as a way to try to address the mortgage problem. And so what they've come up with, and they kicked it off last week with a big publicity campaign, is something called Save the Dream. And basically, there are two pieces of it. One is for people who are not yet in foreclosure, and that's to get you steered in the right direction to working with your lender, to working with some local counseling agencies for the possibility of getting something worked out so that you don't have to lose a house, so you don't go into a foreclosure. And then the second piece of it is the recruitment of attorneys on a pro bono or a free basis to represent individuals who are already in foreclosure. And there's something like 1,000 attorneys statewide that responded to the Chief Justice's request for, in fact, the Chief Justice sent out a letter to every attorney, said we got a real problem here. But something like 1,000 have responded to that. And locally, there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 attorneys at this point who stepped forward and said they would take a case to represent someone who's been foreclosed on.
Now, you say 70 right here locally in the Cincinnati area?
That's correct.
Now, with the thousands of people in this area going through foreclosure, they probably stretch to the limit.
Yeah, that's definitely not enough. For instance, I'm with the Legal Aid Society, and we only represent folks who are at the bottom of the income level. And right now, we're stretched to the limit. We have about 8 attorneys who do foreclosures, and we represent somewhere between 60 and 70 people at any one time in foreclosure, most in Hamilton County, but also Claremont and the other counties around. Certainly, this 70 who step forward are going to be, they're going to make a bigger dent in the problem, but it's not going to solve the problem. Right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and give you a chance to call in if you've got questions. Maybe you've received those letters from your mortgage company and you're headed toward foreclosure. If you've got questions, Noel Morgan has got the answers right here on Lincoln Ware Live. We'll be back in a moment.
The answer may be no.
And we're back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. And if you've got to know, if a person is facing foreclosure, they're getting the letters from their mortgage companies, is there a number they can call to find out what the next step they should take?
Yeah, the Save the Dream program does have a toll-free number, and I've got to look at it to read it. But it's, I think they're going to put it on the screen at some point. It's 888-404-4674. Now, that's a number that rings in Columbus.
Okay.
And what they will do, as I understand the program, they're going to do an initial intake in Columbus, do probably a little bit of screening to see whether, what kind of assistance you need and whether you're going to benefit from the assistance. They will then route down to us at Legal Aid those who are appropriate for us to look at or to send out, and we'll then route those out to local attorneys. If you're not yet in foreclosure, I think what they will be doing is sending you some information, but also giving you information about the local counseling agencies. And we have 4 very good mortgage counseling services in Cincinnati that are free, that are HUD qualified, that is federal government qualified. And they often can work with you to work with your lender to help you get the thing straightened out.
All right, 513-381-3838, 513-381-3838, or 513-651-3838 if you want to jump on board, if you've got questions for Noel Morgan. Let's go to the telephones. Let's start things off this morning with Charles. Charles, good morning. How are you?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Ware.
How you doing?
Great.
What's your question?
I would like to ask this gentleman, listen, my father owns a lot of property. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Turn your TV down.
Oh.
You got to turn your TV down because there's a delay and it's confusing you.
Okay.
Okay.
Excuse me. Okay.
Come on, Charles. Turn your TV down and just ask the question. It's not that difficult.
Turn it off. I'm going to turn it off.
Okay.
That way I can ask.
Okay, there you
go.
Hey, Charles, I'm going to have to let you go. Get to it. Come on.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how is it that
Charles, what is your question?
Okay, that's okay. That's all right. Never mind.
Thanks, Charles. Okay, gee. What? Charles, you're having a tough time this morning. You said you had an uncle that got the property. Let your uncle call in. Maybe he can answer that question at 513-381-3838 if you want to jump on board. Now, how many people have you actually saved so far that were getting ready to, you know, the sheriff was ready to come out and take their stuff out and put it on the sidewalk?
That they were to that point?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yes. The numbers are pretty high. We have, for instance, in the city of Cincinnati, the city actually, there's a headline here, should government aid struggling homeowners? That's in Cincinnati Enquirer,
yes.
Enquirer this morning. The city of Cincinnati actually has a fund that can help struggling homeowners either avoid foreclosure and avoid getting it filed with some bridge money. You've had an illness, you've had a temporary setback, but you can take care of your mortgage going forward. We administer that, and folks can get some money to do it. And I forget the numbers. Last year it was something like 100 families that we helped with that. At any one time, like I say, we've got about 60 or 70 foreclosures open, and then those kind of roll, and we very seldom wind up with a foreclosure case that we represent on that the person doesn't come out better than he went in.
Okay.
One of the things, just to mention, and they say nationally the biggest problem is, the lenders complain at least, that people don't contact them. You know you're behind on your payments. You say, what the heck can I do? I know I'm behind. And the first thing you need to do is communicate with the lender and say, look, I'm having a problem. And when you do that, you want to communicate with the lender and tell them, I want to talk to somebody in what's called loss mitigation. You don't want to talk to that bill collector who's calling you saying, why didn't you make your payments? Because that bill collector only has one aim.
It's to get that
payment made, and he's trying to get blood out of a turnip at that point. So what you need to do is talk to somebody who can actually do something about changing the structure of your mortgage. If you've got an adjustable rate mortgage, you want to be talking to them about, isn't there a way I can get out from under that adjustable rate?
Try to get it fixed.
And get the loan modified. Get your missed payments put to the end of the mortgage so that you can pick it up and start making mortgage payments again. But you don't want somebody who's just going to harangue you and call you and say, look, you haven't made your payments.
So you need to get past that person.
That's right. And that's part of what the Save the Dream folks will do. And one of the confusing things for people is that these days the people you owe on the mortgage aren't the people you got the mortgage from.
Right.
This mortgage has been sold down the road 2 or 3 times, and you're not even dealing with the person who owns it. You're dealing with what they call a servicer. And I noticed in the Save the Dream materials, they say contact your servicer. Well, a lot of people don't know what a servicer is. That's the bill collector that sends you the statements every month. That's somebody like Countrywide or Homecomings. Their name will be on it, but they may not be the company that owns it, but they're the ones you got to deal with.
Now, how many times have you been able to get these mortgage companies to switch someone from an ARM into a fixed rate? Do they do that willingly, or is this something that they don't want to do?
Well, you know, you have to drag them to it a little bit. I would say anytime I'm in a lawsuit with them and they filed a foreclosure case, I'm not going to settle that foreclosure case without that adjustable rate mortgage going away, because it doesn't make any sense. They were putting folks in adjustable rate mortgages that they had no business putting them in. People who are on fixed Social Security incomes, they get a teaser rate that starts out low and then it's going to go up. Well, that didn't make any sense at all. And they're starting to recognize that. And if you listen to the media, the lenders are all saying, we hate to foreclose.
Right,
we don't want to foreclose.
We lose money when we do that. We'd rather keep them in there.
But by God, they just keep filing those foreclosure cases. And I think we still have to work on getting them to see the point a little better.
All right, let's go back to the telephone. Let's go to, is it Clive?
Yes.
How you doing?
All right. How are you?
Pretty good. What's your question?
Well, my question is, I'm in foreclosure right now, okay? And I tell you, it is a really scary feeling. I mean, you feel like you're alone. Everybody wants to help you, but they got their hand out, okay? I got injured about 6 months ago at work, and that's why I'm behind, and I'm in the situation I'm in right now, okay? Who can I talk to help me, you know, in order to put like I just heard on your program, the payment that I owe now at the end of the mortgage or the payment of the house and start new again. You know, is there a place where I can speak to someone about it? So on and so forth?
Okay, let me kind of cut you short because we're going to be short on time, and I want to get an answer in here. It's going to depend in part how far down the road in the foreclosure case you are. And just for people in general, if you get a foreclosure summons from the court, answer it. Do something. See an attorney. Call Save the Dream. Do something, but don't just sit there and say, gee, I know I'm in trouble, because you're going to wind up losing a house to a default judgment. But if you're still fairly early in the foreclosure case, then we may well be able to hook you up with an attorney. There may be defenses that you're not aware of that they can come in and work with you on that. I would start out by calling this number that we've put up here, 884-404-4674.
Can we put that number on the screen? We'll try to put it up on the screen. Get your pencil and, and a piece of paper handy and write that number down. We'll put it up on the screen for you.
Yeah, I would start out with that number, and you know they'll look at it to see whether you will work or work with you some piece of this program. And the other part, you say everybody's got his hands out. There are sharks out there taking advantage of people who are in foreclosure.
Oh, you better believe it.
And as soon as you get that summons, even before you get the summons, you're going to get letters from the sharks. And the sharks are going to say, we can help you. We've got a sure program, guaranteed we're going to save your house. All you have to do is pay us $1,000. Yeah. Don't believe anybody who's contacting you at the same time, sending you letters saying we can help you. You're not going to get any real help unless you go looking for it. But the people who come looking for you, don't deal with them.
Yeah.
Hey, write that number down. It's up on the screen now.
Okay. I got one more question to ask you.
Quickly.
Okay. All right. I've only got served last month. Okay. And I contacted the attorney, and they would be sending me out the letter telling me how much of a lump sum I have to pay back in order to get the mortgage, reinstated and so on. Okay. They also told me that I still have about 4 or 5 months before they finally close on me. Okay, Mr. Ware, I have no place else to live. I just recently divorced, and...
All right, call that number, and they could probably work something out.
Right, when you get the summons, you've got 28 days from that summons date to do something, to file an answer, to do something formally in court. Calling the attorney on the other side doesn't cut it. They will send you a reinstatement amount, and they'll say that, well, to make yourself current, you need $12,000. Well, you don't have $12,000.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean you give up on it. And if you're still within that 28-day period, or if they haven't yet filed a motion for default in your case, then there may be possibilities of doing something with it. And even after they get a judgment, it's still possible to do some negotiation with them. I think they're honest about this. They don't want that house sitting in their inventory, because when they sell it at sheriff's sale, they ain't going to get much money for it. And they're going to lose more money than if they do something to accommodate you, but they have to be kind of dragged into that. So again, call the number. We may be able to get you to someone who can help, but without knowing more on facts, I'm not going to know anything on a specific case.
Hey, thanks for your call. I got to run, got to take a quick break. We'll come back. Write that number down. We've got attorney Noel Morgan with us. We'll take a quick break and we'll return to Lincoln Ware Live. Don't forget, coming up second half of the show, Judge Brad Greenberg will be my guest right here on Lincoln Ware Live. Back in a moment. We are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. My guest this morning, attorney Noel Morgan for legal aid, and he's got help for homeowners who are facing foreclosure. And the headline in today's paper, the Sunday Forum, should government aid struggling homeowners? I think they should. If they're going to help the banks out, I think they should help the homeowners also.
Well, I think it's in everybody's interest. You know, there's no question there are some homeowners out there that just took a big risk and took on more than they should have and took advantage of the situation. For the most part, however, the folks that I see who are in foreclosure aren't there because they were greedy. Yeah, they may have gotten more money than they should have gotten in a loan. They got sold a house that was overpriced because they were inexperienced. Then they ran into a problem. They were very marginal. But the banks were approving these loans without paying any attention.
And these guys that were writing the loans didn't know what the hell they were doing.
The guys who were mortgage brokers today were aluminum siding salesmen yesterday. Mm-hmm. And they were taking a big cut out of your loan. If you get a $100,000 loan, typically $4,000 or $5,000 went straight to the pockets of the mortgage broker. So yes, government should be helping, and it is helping. And the limited help, like the Save the Dream program, is finding resources out there that can help the individual. There's no direct money going into somebody's pocket for it. But as I said, Cincinnati has a fund. The state does also have a fund for people who are outside the city limits of Cincinnati, that there is some home rescue money there as well that's administered by the Home Ownership Center in Cincinnati. So there is some limited aid there, but it's certainly not up to the task. And just I want to stress something that I mentioned when this guy called a while ago and you and I were talking about in the break, is that the dispiriting thing is that the vast majority of foreclosure cases in court are default judgments. And if you think of a court case, I mean, a foreclosure is a lawsuit. Mm-hmm. You're being sued. And in a lawsuit, it's like a baseball game. Mm-hmm. If you don't show up for the baseball game, you forfeit. Right. If you don't show up for the lawsuit, it's a default judgment.
So these people that are being sued, they don't show up, and then
that's right.
They lose right away.
Exactly. They get a summons that says file an answer in 28 days. I don't care if your answer just says no. You file something with the court that answers and says, hey, I'm here. Mm-hmm. Don't forget me. Right. I'm in the case. Now that may only slow it down a little bit, but it gets their attention, and it means there's not going to be a default judgment in it. It does not solve your problem. You're probably still going to need legal representation to do it right. But at least you've said, I'm here, I want to do something. In Claremont County, the Judge Ringland out there set up a system for mediation where all homeowners that get a summons also get a notice that says call legal aid, and legal aid will put you in touch with attorneys who will try to mediate your case. And automatically, if you request a 60-day extension on your own of the answer period, the court will grant it. So it gives you time to work it.
All right, we've got some calls and just a few more minutes left. So callers, make your questions quick and to the point, and we'll try to answer them right away. Jonathan, real quick.
Mr. Morgan, I'm glad you're there today. And my question is, I just understood from a CPA that I know last Thursday that if you had a loan with any of these mortgage companies, we'll say for $120,000, and the sheriff's auction notifies you that they lowered the appraisal value on your property, we'll say to $100,000, and they start the auction at $65,000, and the house sells for $80,000, that you are still responsible for the difference of the 80 to 120, which is $40,000.
Okay, we'll let him answer that. Is that true?
That's true. That's what's called a deficiency judgment. But the good part of it is two things. One, that although they'll have a judgment against you for that difference of $40,000 in your example, they can only try to collect on that for 2 years. There's a law that goes back to Depression days. And the second is they don't try to collect. Very seldom is the bank going to go after that $40,000, but it is going to show up on the court records that you owe them the $40,000.
All right, let's go to Stephanie real quick. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm so glad you guys are there today. My grandmother, she had a home with her husband. He passed away. His family came in and told her that get out of the house, so she got an apartment. Now she got a letter foreclosing on her, and we don't know what to do, you know, about this. She hasn't lived there for the last 6 months. We thought his family took it over. They basically threw her out of the home. And I'm just wondering...
well, how could they throw her out of the home if it's her home?
She was scared of them.
Oh.
It happens.
They scared her.
Okay.
She has Alzheimer's and stuff.
Okay, hang up and listen to the answer.
Well, again, I think especially if you're in that answer period and it's been foreclosed on, or even if not, contact the state number and see if you can get referred to somebody. There's more to this, and it's going to be more complicated than typical foreclosure case, but there may be some help there.
Put that number up on the screen one more time before we let you go, Noel. Let's go to one more final call. M.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
I sold a house because I could not afford 2 houses because my mother was sick. Is it possible the mortgage company could add on more fees at the end at closing? I did sell a house at a higher price, but they added on more fees, so I wouldn't come out with anything.
Okay.
Well, if it's, you can do something if you want to avoid foreclosure, you can do something called a deed in lieu of foreclosure, where you basically give the house to the mortgage company. You can also do what's called a short sale, where you sell it for less than the mortgage, and the mortgage company agrees to forgive the difference between the two. Now, it sounds like in your situation, you're saying that you sold it for more than what you thought the mortgage was, but they added on some fees that pushed it up. That could happen. For instance, if they'd already started foreclosure, they're going to have attorney fees. They're going to have some other fees to add on to that. So you could be in that situation. Generally, if you're in foreclosure, you've got to have their permission to sell the house because they've got to okay the amount that you're going to get for it.
All right. Hey, Noel, you've been just a wealth of information this morning. Really appreciate you coming in here. And how can people call the legal aid? Do you have a number just for legal aid locally here? Maybe they have some other issues other than the foreclosure?
Our number is 241-9400.
241-9400, and it's income-based, so...
Income-based. Our income level for homeowners is higher than our typical income base. It's based on the federal poverty level, so that for a family of 4, you can be somewhere up around $45,000 and qualify.
All right. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with Judge Brad Greenberg. And if you've ever gone to court and given a bond by a judge, maybe you thought it was too high, we'll tell you what goes into that when we return in a moment. And we are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. As promised, my second guest this morning, none other than Judge Brad Greenberg. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning, Lincoln.
I tell you, busy times in the courtrooms down at the county courthouse. And one thing that's been in the news a lot lately is high bails being set by judges. I think Todd Fortune, the county commissioner, says he's going to visit some of the courtrooms to see if these judges are setting the bails too high, causing the overcrowding of the Justice Center. Now, I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, it is an issue that people are concerned about, especially since the voters voted down the tax increase for a new jail. I mean, there's only so many rooms at the inn, and if there's a high bail on everybody, then the jail's overflowing. So judges have to be careful about setting bail, not too high, not too low. It's a difficult choice in every case, how high or how low that bond should be.
All right, 513-381-3838 if you want to jump on board, 513-381-3838 or 651-3838, 513 is the area code. If you've got questions, maybe you've been in the courtroom before and you thought maybe the judge was unfair. We won't comment on any other judge's bail. All you can do is comment on how you decide the type of bail you will set. Now, a guy, let's just take child support. He's arrested, he comes in, back pay, he's back behind on his child support payments, and they're going to lock him up. How do you deal with something like that?
Well, you have to look at a lot of different factors with every case. Of course, the most important is what the charge is, and you said child support, but you also look at this person's history, how long he's been in the community, what type of job does he have, what type of family situation he has, and you especially look at his record of appearing for court in the past. Okay. What they do is the pretrial services compiles for you how many times they've failed to appear in court in the past. So if a guy's made his court appearances in the past, then he's looking at a lower bond. But if he's someone that has 8 or 10 or 12 times where he has failed to appear, the bond needs to be higher.
So a first-time offender, say a guy has an assault charge. Say he got in a fight at a bar, beat up some people, and the cops came and he was resisting arrest, but he maybe had a little bit too much to drink. Never been to court before, and maybe he's a homeowner, and other than this one appearance, pretty nice guy so far. So, I mean, assault charge, he's tried to fight the cops. How do you decide what to give this guy?
Well, those are misdemeanor charges, so you're looking at what is going to normally be a 10% bond. So he might have a bond of about $1,000, which means he would only have to post $100 to get out. If he just had the one charge, he might even qualify for an OR bond, which is that he.
And how does that OR bond work?
That is basically, it's just a promise that you're going to appear back in court for all of your court proceedings. The only threat with an OR bond is if you have an OR bond and then you fail to show, that's a new charge. You could be charged. So there is still some threat if you don't show up.
Now, how do you decide who gets home incarceration? I know that could ease the jail crowding, more home incarceration instead of sending them to jail for 30, 60, 90 days. How do you decide who gets home incarceration?
Well, again, you look at a lot of factors, and I use home incarceration a lot. I use it sometimes as a condition of bond. Well, I'll set a lower bond, but I still don't want this person getting out. So I might set a low bond with home incarceration, or sometimes I'll even set OR with home incarceration. And then on the other, after conviction, sometimes you'll use home incarceration. I'll use that sometimes with driving without a license charges, where the jail's too crowded to put everybody in who drives without a license, but you want to penalize them. Then you want them to get the message,
and
so
then
you might
want them to at least try to keep, if they have a job,
keep their job. Absolutely.
I mean, that's what happens to a lot of these guys. They, driving without a license, they get locked up for 30 days. They get out.
They lose their job.
They lose their job. And then, maybe they'll go into other crime to make ends meet. So a lot of times, do you look at that? This guy's got a decent job. If I throw him in jail for 30 days, he's probably going to lose his job.
You do. You look at that a lot, and the defense attorneys point that out for you, and that's something I consider, especially with driving without a license. And if someone has, maybe the first time they might get a fine, but if it's their third or fourth time, I start looking at putting them on home incarceration for 30 or 60 days, depending on.
And if they violate that, then you don't have any choice.
Right, then they're eating bologna sandwiches at the jail. So.
All right, let's go to the telephone. Let's see, who was the first caller? You didn't put his, Ron, how are you?
Good morning. How are you doing today, Lincoln?
Pretty good.
You guys are doing great. And I just want to make a quick comment. You judges have one of the hardest jobs in the community. And if you handcuff yourselves by allowing people to get back on the street, that is probably not a good thing. So the only thing I can say is put them in jail. and the system is going to just have to find a way to keep them there.
Oh, boy.
And stuff. And other than that, thank you for your time, and you just keep up and do what you have to do.
All right, Ron, thanks for your call. All right, Ron says just lock them up and throw away the key.
Well, you know, you can't do that with everyone.
Yeah.
You have to be fair to every person, and every case is different, and it's hard to predict what if they're going to show up for court or not show up for court, if they're going to commit another crime or not. And the thing you look at a lot, to be frank, is you look at their record, because the best predictor of future behavior is their past behavior. So if you have someone with a bad record, or someone that commits a serious crime, then I agree with Ron.
They didn't learn from their first lesson.
Right.
So, okay, let's go to Ward. Ward, how are you?
Good morning, fellas. How y'all doing today?
Pretty good. Speak up a little.
I say, okay. Yes. What I wanted to say was that, I agree with you about some, if you put some of the fathers in jail, that they lose their job and they can't pay anything because they're locked up.
Right. You throw a guy in jail for back child support, then he loses his job, then how is he ever going to get the child support caught up?
And one more thing, I know this might be a little far-fetched, but it seemed like, back in the day when they would make the father leave the home in order for the home to receive aid.
Okay, that's a whole another different topic. But yeah, I guess you would take that if a guy, before you would lock a guy up for 30 days for back child support, you have to say, okay, he's got a job now, he just hasn't been paying support. You would maybe see if they could, just take it out of his wages or something like that to make sure it's paid, rather than locking the guy up and then he loses his job. How would he ever catch up?
With these child support cases, a lot of times the guy will get probation, and then he'll get a chance to start paying down the debt. And you can measure his progress. Is he trying or is he not trying? And then that's what you go by.
All right, let's go to Glenn. Glenn.
Yes.
How are you?
Oh, fine. How you doing today?
Okay.
Gentlemen?
What's your question?
Listen, my question is this. If you got something that's going on with this child support, okay, personally speaking, and you take my income tax every year, you come on my job, you arrest me, you get $250 every 2 weeks out of my check, and then one check I took $600 off my pay, and it's gone. How do you expect me to do anything if every job I've ever had, I lose it, come into court, getting locked up?
Well, I don't know. Okay, thanks for your call. Why would they lock him up if they're taking the money out of his check unless he never goes to work and they don't get any money? I don't know.
Yeah, that's not likely to happen. But you have to remember, the criminal judges, they don't set the amount of child support.
Right.
If you think your child support amount is too high, you'd have to go back to that judge that set that amount.
All you do is if they said, hey, we need to lock this guy up, he needs to, come before you, that's all you can do. You'd have nothing to do with how much he's paying.
That's right.
Let's take a quick break. Almost every line is busy. You're a popular guy this morning.
Oh, well.
We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Judge Brad Greenberg is my guest this morning, and we'll talk about the high bails that are being set in Hamilton County. Is that why the jail's overcrowded? I don't know. Back in a moment. $12:30, what about, you confused me here. Lincoln Ware Live is the program, and we were just watching the judge with a bat, and he was just asking me in my ear, did you have a baseball bat when you're in court?
No, I don't.
He confused me. Let's go back to the telephones. It's Lincoln Ware Live on It's 38. That's where I am. I didn't know where I was there for a second. Charles, good morning. You're on the air. What's your question?
I want to ask the judge. I apologize to you, Lincoln Ware, earlier, but I had to get my thoughts together.
Okay, do you have them together?
The judge, why would they send me a letter? My daughter was 23 years old. They sent me a letter. Come on, I owe $1,700 more.
Okay, well, Charles, you still don't have it together. He has nothing to do with that letter. Call Jobs and Family Services and ask them why. He does not have a clue as to why they sent you that letter. Tyrone, go ahead.
What's going on, Lincoln?
How you doing?
All right, now, I just had a question about these public defenders. We get representation, but it's not even adequate for us to even attempt to beat a case or anything.
Tyrone, you know what, Tyrone? That's a good question. I agree with you. I just don't think, I know the public defenders are overwhelmed, but I just don't think they really give it their all when they're trying to defend somebody. I don't know. Maybe you're a judge. You see them all the time. What do you think?
Well, I think most of them do a good job. When most of these public defenders are young attorneys that are just starting out, trying to get their experience, build up their practice. But I think there's a truism in this world that you get what you pay for.
All right.
And people work harder when they're getting paid.
Right.
And so if you can afford to pay an attorney, he's probably going to be more motivated to work harder for you.
That's true. Hey, yeah, Tyrone, like I said, if you can't afford one, then you don't have any choice. But if by any way and means that you can't afford to get your own lawyer, that's the best way to go.
Okay.
All right. Hey, thanks for your call. Let's go to Rhonda. Rhonda, good morning. You're on Lincoln Ware Live. How are you?
Good morning, Lincoln. I just was listening to your show, and they were talking about.
Can you turn your TV down?
I'm turning it down as I speak.
Okay, go ahead.
I was listening to you about the child support issue, and I think it's sad that the courts have to waste taxpayers' money to lock up. I'm talking about man, woman, or green, blue, black, or white. That they have to waste taxpayers' money to enforce people to take care of their children.
Yeah.
That's really sad to me, and I hear people complain all the time about child support. But when you walk off and leave your children and don't look back, it will catch up with you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they don't respect the child, they don't respect the mother. So that's what they're there for, enforcement. Take care of your children, and no one has to sit from the bench to look down on you for not taking care of your children. That's not what judges are really for.
Rhonda, thanks for your call. And she's probably right. You probably get more child support cases than you can handle, that you really want to deal with.
Well, actually, I don't. I don't handle them because they're felonies.
Right.
And
okay.
I just handle misdemeanor crimes.
Okay.
But she's right. There's way too many child support cases in the system. It's unfortunate that people only respond to pay for their children when they're under the threat of the law.
All right, let's go to Tom. Tom, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, sir. I just wanted to follow up on what the lady prior to me said. It's a shame in this day and age that everybody has to blame the system for their incarceration. If you can't make them, if you can't support them, rather, don't make those children. They didn't ask to be brought here. I don't care if you're white, black, or purple, like the lady said. I unfortunately have been caught up in the system down there for other reasons, and it's entirely too crowded with guys too sorry to pay their child support. If you can't make those babies or can't support those babies, don't make them.
Thanks for your call. And if they probably did a survey and to find out what people are actually charged with that are in the justice system, what do you think? What are cases you see more of? Driving without a license, DUIs? What do you see most of in your courtroom?
In my courtroom, it's a lot of driving offenses, driving under suspension, driving without a license, DUI, and then there's a lot of assaults and domestic violence and thefts. Okay. So that's what I deal with mainly.
Now, on domestic violence cases, I'm sure you come in and the guy says, well, she hit me and I was trying to block her and then I accidentally hit her or something. How do you decide whether, to give the guy a break or whether he really intended to? Because a lot of times these women, they start these fights and they, will hit the guy and just with a reaction, he'll hit her back. So how do you decide what happens on those cases?
Those are some of the most difficult cases. And a lot of times at the initial appearance, the arraignment, the alleged victim will be there. And a lot of times they'll say, I hate him, lock him up, set a high bond. But just as often they'll be there and say, listen, we had too much to drink last night. I love him. I want him back out. And so you listen to the victim a lot. You look at their record. You look at, do they have prior convictions for domestic violence?
Have there been calls to the house by the police?
Right.
With any problems there? Maybe no one got arrested, but there have been calls and things like that, I guess.
So those are cases where we use the temporary protective order a lot too, where the guy will get out on bond, but he's clearly ordered to stay away from the alleged victim during the pendency of the case.
Okay. All right, let's go back to the telephones. Let's go to John. John.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
All right, how you doing, Mr. Lincoln?
Okay, what's your question?
Well, I have a couple of questions and answers.
If you had the questions and the answers, why are you calling us?
I say some of the answers to some of your questions, the callers.
Okay.
Hello?
I hope they're not child support questions.
Oh, they definitely child support.
Oh, well,
questions.
see, I got to go. Let's move on. Any questions other than child support? I'll get Jobs and Family Services in here, and then we'll deal with that. Dolores, how are you? Dolores. Daryl.
Yes.
How are you?
Okay, how you doing?
Folks, you need to turn your TVs down. Turn them down. Go ahead, Daryl. What's your question?
Why is child support a felony?
Well, that is up to the legislature. They decide what crimes are misdemeanors and what crimes are felonies. But they are the ones that make that decision. So you'd have to ask the legislature.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your call. Steve.
Yeah, hi.
How you doing? Real quick.
Pretty good. Hey, I'd like Honorable Greenberg to take some housing court cases instead of rolling them all to mock. Can he maybe keep a few in his jurisdiction?
That's a good question, but that is a system that was voted on by all the judges in joint session, where they decided that it would be best for one judge to develop expertise in those types of cases. Right now, Judge Russell Mock gets all those housing court cases, and the theory is he can gain more experience and knowledge to handle those cases.
Well, can't you read the law and determine justice?
Well, you could, but I have to abide by the vote of the judges on the municipal court bench. There's 14 judges, and that was their vote that that is how the system would proceed in Hamilton County.
Why?
Well, that you'd have to ask all those judges. I don't know why everyone voted to do it that way. But
how did you vote on that issue?
Please.
How did you vote on that issue?
I was appointed a year and a half ago. That system was set in place before I got there, so I've never had to vote on that issue.
Well, could you explain what do you think it's just that everybody goes to one judge?
Okay, so I guess he's got a problem with the one judge. It's just like when they could vote to have one judge handle all DUI cases. I don't know whether that would be fair. You might have a point there. You might have a valid point.
Yeah, I'd have no problem handling those types of cases, and the same thing. It's not just housing court where they have this type of situation. Also, for there's a mental health docket where Judge Stoutberg and Judge Lisa Allen handle those types of cases. So it's just the choice of the municipal court judges to do it that way.
It sort of streamline things, I guess. It makes it easier. So, all right. Hey, Steve, thanks for your call.
Okay.
All right. Steve didn't like the way that, and I guess you judges, they get together. Do you have meetings every so often with all the judges? What do you talk about in those meetings if you can make public?
Sure. Well, they are open to the public, those meetings. It's called joint session, and we have them once a month. Where we have an agenda, we talk about different things, problems at the court.
Do you talk about high bail?
We could talk about high bail, and there's also committees that meet and discuss different types of. I'm on a couple committees. I'm on the personnel committee and the probation committee, and so there's a lot of issues that the judges get together and talk about.
What about law enforcement? Are they ever there at those meetings, like the chief of police or Simon Lee saying, "Hey, you guys are sending too many people to jail. You got to back off a little"?
No, I haven't. I've never seen them at the meeting, but we've had representatives of the police department there for scheduling. We tried to build into the system so that when a case gets set, the assignment commissioner knows the police officer's vacation schedule, so cases aren't getting set when the officer's on vacation. So we will work with departments to try to get it. So when someone comes down to court, their case gets resolved the first day and it's not continued because the officer's on vacation.
What if the officer's not there? I'm sure if I'm a defense lawyer and I got my client there and the officer doesn't show up, I'm going to ask for a dismissal instead of a continuance.
Right.
Do you ever just dismiss it if the officer's not there?
Yes, and it depends on the charge. In my courtroom, if it's a minor misdemeanor charge, I don't give continuances. So if you're there on a speeding ticket or an open container ticket and the officer's not there, I dismiss it the first time. If it's a more serious charge, like an assault or a domestic violence, and a witness or a police officer is missing, I generally will give each side one continuance.
Okay. All right, Beverly, real quick.
I have a question. I understand he said you get what you pay for when it comes to a public defender. What if you get a public defender, you go to court, and the judge said he didn't present the case properly, and you've given him, and he's asked for money? I guess public defenders can ask for money, and if so, can you get it back? And my second question is, on those joint sessions, is the public invited?
Okay, now you actually paid a public defender money?
Yes, he told me his family has to eat too.
Okay, we'll hear the answer to that. Thanks for your call. I don't know, is that illegal?
You know, I don't think that's supposed to happen. So
Yeah.
you might want to call someone in the public defender's office to look into that. And when I say you get what you pay for, I don't mean to demean public defenders at all. As I said, the vast majority of them are hardworking. They do a good job. They're devoted to their client. But you know, as I said, sometimes people respond to money.
Right.
And attorneys do that too. And if you might find that, you know, if you're paying someone, he's a little more motivated.
Work a little harder. All right. Hey, Brad Greenberg, always good to have you here.
Thank you, Lincoln.
And as usual, you just get so many calls. We couldn't get to all of them, but we'll have him back again, I promise you. And we need to take a quick break, and we'll come back. And once again, thanks to Judge Brad Greenberg. And hopefully you never have to face him in the courtroom. He's firm, but he's fair. All right. We'll be back in a moment. And we are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program, and I got it right this time. I'm at the TV station, not the radio station. Coming up at noon today on It's 38, Freedom Strike, starring Michael Dudikoff, and that's at noon today right here on It's 38. If you want to see a rebroadcast of this show tonight at 8 o'clock on Channel 25, WOTH, Channel 25, 8 o'clock tonight. Then following this show at 9 o'clock, NASCAR Angels, Salute to Our Military. That's at 9 o'clock on WOTH, Channel 25. Don't forget, you can catch this episode online. Just log on to WBQC.com. It should be up around Tuesday or Wednesday. Check me out Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on 1230, The Buzz of Cincinnati. If you want to call me, you have a question about something, 513-679-6028. That's going to wrap it up for this morning's show. We'll see you next Sunday morning at 10 o'clock right here on Lincoln Ware Live. See you next week.